Behind the price of your morning coffee, your loan interest rate, and even your job security, there's an invisible force quietly shaping your financial reality. Monetary policy is everywhere, though few of us notice it. It influences how much we spend, how much we save, and how fast our economy grows or slows down. In recent years, the world has felt its weight. During the COVID-19 crisis, governments and central banks pumped trillions into economies to keep them afloat. But in the aftermath, we saw inflation hit historic high 9.1% in the US, over 10% in parts of Europe, and rising living costs worldwide. Here in Malaysia, changes in the overnight policy rate rippled through every corner of daily life, from housing loans to food prices. As of 2024, Bank Negara Malaysia has kept the rate at 3% to strike a delicate balance between growth and inflation. But who decides these changes? What are the risks? And how do ordinary people feel the effects? This documentary explores the hidden hand guiding our economy and why understanding monetary policy matters more than ever.
Monetary policy involves action by a country's central bank to manage the money supply to promote economic growth and stability. Key strategies include adjusting interest rate and bank reserve requirement, aiming for high employment while controlling inflation. Central bank primarily use open market operation, buying or selling government security to influence the money supply and interest rate. Buying security increase the money supply and lower interest rate, encouraging lending, while selling security decrease the money supply and raise the interest rate and help control inflation. In addition, monetary policy also has two forms, namely quantitative monetary policy and qualitative monetary policy. First one, quantitative monetary policy are also known as general tool used by the central bank. As the name suggests, these two are related to quantity and volume of the money. These two are designed to control the total volume of the bank credit in the economy. These two are indirect in their nature and are used to influence the quantity of credit in the economy. Let's make a simple analogy which you can imagine the central bank is filling a tank, which is the economy, with the water, money. Quantitative tools are like opening or closing a big tap to control how much water flows in. Next, qualitative monetary policy are also known as selective instrument of the central bank monetary policy. These two are used for discriminating between various use of credit. For example, they can use for favoring export over import or essential over non-essential credit supply. This method has an influence on both borrowers and lenders. Here's got a simple analogy too, which is now the central bank is not just pouring water into the tank, but guiding the flow into the right pipes. It's not just how much money goes into the economy, but where it goes. This is a table to show difference about quantitative monetary policy and qualitative monetary policy.
I would like to present the data from the graph of Bank Negara Malaysia that we have obtained. The first graph covering Malaysia's overnight policy rate, which is OPR trend from 2004 to 2025, shows how Bank Negara Malaysia has used monetary policy to respond to various economic conditions. From 2004 to 2006, the OPR increased from 2.70% to 3.50% to manage inflation during strong growth. It was then reduced to 2.75% during the 2008 global financial crisis to support economic activities. Between 2011 and 2019, the rate remained relatively stable around 3.00%, reflecting moderate and steady growth. A significant drop occurred in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, which the OPR slashed to a historic low of 1.75% to stimulate the economy. As recovery began, the rate was gradually raised back to 3.00% by 2023 and held steadily through 2025, signaling a return to policy normalization and economic stability. Here is the second graph which illustrates the overnight policy rate OPR trend in Malaysia from 2004 through 2029, incorporating both historical data and projected values. The early part of the graph shows how the OPR rose from 2.70% in 2004 to 3.50% by 2006, reflecting strong economic performance. During the 2008 global financial crisis, the OPR dropped to 2.75% as Bank Negara Malaysia took steps to support the economy. From 2011 to 2019, the rate hovered around 3.00%, signaling a relatively stable monetary environment. The most notable dip occurred in 2020 during the height of COVID-19 pandemic, when the OPR fell to 1.75%, the lowest in history. This was a deliberate move to ease financial burdens and boost consumptions. As the economic recovered, the OPR was gradually increased to 3.00 by 2023, a level it maintained through 2029 in this projection. This steady rate suggests that the central bank expects moderate growth, control inflation, and no major economic shock in the coming years. Overall, this graph reflects Bank Negara Malaysia's strategy of using OPR to balance growth and inflation during long-term economic stability.
Today I will discuss about what is the difference of monetary and fiscal policy. More often than not, both economics and politicians are constantly worried about high unemployment and high inflation whenever a government tries to prevent this. It has two ways of doing so: fiscal policy and monetary policy. These two tools used by government to expand or slow economic growth. Let's start by exploring the difference between the two. First, we have monetary policy that managed by the central bank. When the economy needs to boost, the central bank will increase the money supply by buying government bonds. The central bank also will lower interest rate for people more borrowing the money, so they will more spending. And more spending, the economy will grow. When inflation is too high, the central bank will reduce the money supply by selling bonds or raising reserve requirement. The central bank will higher interest rate, so people will less borrowing, so they will less spending. It will make the inflation growth down. Next, we have fiscal policy that handled by government. When government using the contractionary fiscal policy, that will happen when there is inflation, the government reduce spending and increase tax. In another situation, like expansionary fiscal policy will happen during a recession. The government will increase the spend and cut the tax. For example, in US, monetary policy refers to the action of central bank, including the Federal Reserve, to achieve macroeconomic policy objectives such as price stability, full employment, and stable economic growth. Fiscal policy refers to the tax and spending policy of a national government. In the US, fiscal policy decisions are determined by Congress and the administration. The Fed play no role in determining fiscal policy.